The Barrel House is brought to you by you, the listener, and those of you who have chosen to support the show over at patreon.com/barrelhouse, especially our Whiskey Legend tier patrons, Greg, Katie, Lauren, and Joe. Without you, the show wouldn't be possible. Hello, and welcome to the Barrel House. Hello and welcome back to the Barrel House. I am your host, Joe Kane, and today we're going to dig into another review. This time we're going to do the Octomore 12.3. This is one of their more recent releases, and I liked it so much I decided to bump it to the front of the review list here. I don't think it's my favorite Octomore. I believe that takes the 11-1 so far. I believe takes the cake on that, but this is close. Octomore, if you don't know, although I've mentioned it before, some of you have seen it on some of the live streams here, Octomore is famous for being some of the most, if not the most, heavily peated whiskey on the market. They've had their peat per million, how it's measured, rises and falls with the releases or the different ages. You know, they had like the event horizon and stuff. This one is 118.1 ppm. I don't remember which one it was. They had one that was over 300 quite some time ago, that I think takes the cake as like the heaviest peated of all time. I think like the ones you typically may have had, like your Ardbegs or your Lafroigs and them, Peat Monster, are usually between like 30 and 60. I think Ardbeg is usually around like 50-ish, somewhere in there. So it's very peaty. It's very smoky. It's very in your face, but I'm a big fan of it. The 12.3, a lot of people ask this, the 12 is the release. So this is the 12th release of Octomore, and the 0.1s here, let me make sure I'm right on this. 12.1 is Scottish barley in ex-American whiskey casks. 0.2 is Scottish grown barley in ex-American whiskey casks and then finished in Sauternes cask, and 12.3 is all Islay barley grown at the Octomore farm, the namesake of the whiskey, aged in a combination of ex-American whiskey and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. Those finishings change a little bit, but the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, that is the finish difference for that release. I think that, but the 0.3s are always all Islay. The 0.3s are all Islay barley from Octomore, and I think the 1 and 2 are usually just Scottish barley and different agings from there. I know a lot of people find that kind of confusing, but it's really great, and I find this to be a tremendous pour. Speaking of which, I should probably pour some so that I can enjoy this while we're talking here. I just love this stuff so much. I actually shot one of my 10-second reviews with like a gigantic pour for TikTok on with this bottle, and it was probably like a $50 pour, but it was still good. It was a lot, but it was still good. So yeah, let's get into the pour here. Try to keep this to a reasonable length here. This is a really great whiskey. Like I said, I don't think it's my favorite Octomore of all time, but it is really good. It's 62.1% alcohol. It's 5 years old. I think all the Octomores are 5 years old, with the exception of a couple that I think may have been 3. And then there's the Octomore 10 year, which is a different release. It's got a really, really dense nose. There's so much going on in the nose. Like I said earlier, this is American whiskey casks and ex-American whiskey casks and ex-Pedro Jimenez sherry butts. This is 5 years old, so it was distilled 5-ish years ago. 118.1 peat parts per million. It's got a really well balanced nose to me. It's got like this real salty, kind of meaty umami thing going on. A little bit of like roasted peanuts. Some coffee, like fresh roasted coffee. And then it's just got this a bunch of sweetness kind of all around. It's very citrusy, a little orange, some tropical fruits, maybe like some mango, pineapple kind of thing. It's a lot of fruit. There's a lot of fruit going on here. Obviously, with it being an Octomore, it is also intensely smoky and peaty. But I find it interesting that, like, for some reason, it's so densely smoky and peaty that it's almost easier to get through and find the other notes than it is with a more delicate whiskey. This thing is really ham-fisted, but in a really pleasant way. Oh, man, I will say, I think the nose is better than the palate on this one. Just to me, I think the nose is really something on this. I think the 11.1 that I have up on the shelf behind me is better overall. I think it's a better palate. I think the nose is almost as good, but I think this nose is like the one thing of this bottle that beats that bottle. On the palate is both really good and really weird. The first thing I get is like some kind of dark fruit, raisin maybe, dates, something like that, and coffee grounds. And then I get like a little sourness that comes through. Like the sourness reminds me a lot of like the classic Lottie or Bruichladdich. It's like that kind of tart, almost warheady sour. It's very sour. There's some sweetness in there too, though. It's like some kind of fruit preserve, honey, little brown sugary kind of sweetness to it. It is almost like the sweetness is there, but it is almost obliterated by the really salty, really tart, really heavy smoke. And it's not like, I mentioned the smoke in, I don't think I've done a show on it, but I mentioned the smoke in the 11.1 being very like blue cheesy and savory. This is way more in the vein of like, I just got a mouthful of campfire smoke, that like really dry, acrid smoke. I still like it, but it is not my favorite of the Octomore expressions when it comes to how the smoke lands. The finish is really nice though. Still very sour, very Bruichladdich Distillerie sour. The ocean brine salt, very present in the finish. But as that kind of washes away, the smoke lingers for quite a while, but as the sourness kind of comes out, it's almost got like a trail mixy dried fruit and nut thing going on that it like reminds me of like shoveling a bag of trail mix into my dumb face while I'm on a hike. That's actually just like a sort of tough walk in the woods, but I call it a hike so that I feel better about myself, right? I'm gonna go for a mile walk on this trail and I'm gonna eat 7,000 calories of trail mix while I'm at it. It's kind of got that feel to it. And it's interesting. There's like a lemon zesty thing in the finish that once I found it in the finish, it reminds me kind of like lemon bars. Now I taste it in the palate too, and I think that's a good addition to the drink, to the pour overall. I mean, here's the thing. This is a really peaty, really smoky, really high proof, really expensive bottle of pretty rare Scotch. Is this gonna be your thing? This is not like in the Old Forester, it's $50. If you like bourbon, give it a shot and see what you think category. This is like $300-ish. You should be very aware of what you're getting and if it's your lane before you buy this. Would I recommend this? Have you had Octomore before? If you like Octomore, maybe. Yeah. Are you new to Islay? Then definitely not. Are you somebody who pounds Ardbeg or Lagavulin or the Freud enough where that goes down easy and you're looking for some way to... This is how I ended up with Octomore. I drink a lot of Islay Scotches because I like them a lot, to the point where I found them no longer challenging on the palate. And you continue to escalate until you're drinking Octomore, which is just really well made, really excellently executed Scotch. But it's also very intense. If that's not your bag, don't push it. Don't try to make it your bag. I wouldn't stick with it if it's not your thing. So this is not like an easy recommend. This is if this is in your lane, you should try it. If you're not sure, then, you know, there are a number of other Isleys I would try first to see if that's your wheelhouse. And if that's a thing you're interested in giving a shot, you hit me up on Instagram or in the Discord or whatever. All of those links are at barrelhousepodcast.com. And let me know what you're interested in, and I'll talk it out with you. I love talking whiskey with people, so I'd be happy to help you. That's all I'm going to say on this one. I'm going to try to keep these a little bit shorter. So thanks for stopping by. Before I go, I have to thank everybody over at patreon.com/barrelhouse for helping keep the show live, independent. It's totally listener funded. Keeping these bottles down here for your listening pleasure. Keeping the lights on. I really don't have words to say how much I appreciate it. So thank you all so much. If you would love to get some exclusive content, get the episodes early, have a little easier time one-on-one with me, there's a whole bunch of perks and levels over at patreon.com/barrelhouse. So do that. Go give me, $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever you can afford. If you met me, if you were to bump into me in person, would you buy me a shot? And if the answer is yes, then you should just go subscribe to Patreon. And it's like the same thing. You can tell me that you're subscribing to buy me a shot, and I'll have a shot and send you a video of me having the shot you subscribed for. So do that. You should definitely do that. With that said, though, that's really all I got for today. So thank you all for stopping by. Drink whiskey, be merry, take care. The Barrel House is written, produced, and hosted by Joe Kane, and it's a proud member of the Earglue Media Network. Views and opinions expressed on this show belong only to the mouth they came out of. And as always, please remember to drink responsibly. Slàinte mhath.